You know, the cost of petrol going up a lot in this bad economy shape. People that want to save as much money as they can. So if you're like me, you want to shop at the 99-cent store for a penny. Jay Leno, the famous host of late-night TV known for his warmth and sense of humor, has just stunning news that has broken and is sending waves across his admirers and Hollywood around the world. Just a few minutes ago, sources close to the comedian confirmed that something big has taken place. Something that even he faithful fans never saw coming. From decades behind the desk of The Tonight Show to a peaceful life with ancient automobiles all around, Jay's journey has always been interesting. But what he said today shocked even friends who have known one another for a long time were shocked. Before you keep going, please sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell because what you're going to hear might affect how you will always see Jay Leno. Jay has been Leno seemed unassailable. America's TV lover, who made the switch without a hitch from stages for stand-up comedy to one of the most important roles in the history of television. It wasn't merely a job to host The Tonight Show, Jay's job. It was his life's work. From the first night he was there in 1992 till Jay's emotional sign-off in 2014 was a time of classic humor, heart, and hard work. But behind that wide smile and the collection of timeless cars was a man quietly fighting more than just a late-night contest. When Jay's world came to an end, when the cameras stopped rolling, turned into a time of sadness and introspection understandings. People who know him best claim he's been getting ready for anything like this, expecting months of announcements. People started to talk about Swirl after fans saw Jay pull back from going out in public and missing big automobile events and not going to red carpets all the way. A lot of people believed it was just aging catching up with him, but many close to him said that something much worse was going on. In a recent private talking with Jay, a friend of mine for a long time stated, "You can work your whole life trying to make others laugh, but in the end, you have to face the silence." That creepy line now seems like a hint to what is happening. People know Jay Leno for more than just his comedy or his vehicles. He's also recognized for his strength. After getting a bad burn injured in a fire at a garage and later a motorcycle crash, most would have quietly retired. But Jay didn't. He came back to the stage with scars but beaming, showing that nothing could stop him down. But now, this most recent the epiphany feels different, deeper, and more personal. And how he said the fans are now questioning if Jay Leno's time in the spotlight is coming to an end emotionally. Jay Leno's The announcement started out like any of his easy, friendly, and timeless monologues, familiar. But what happened next caught everyone was caught off guard. From his garage in Burbank, he said, encircled by his most valued collection of Jay gazed right into the car's camera and talked in a way that fans have not often heard previously. He said loaded with emotion. "I've lived blessed life," he said. "But there it's time to be honest with yourself and with others who helped you." For a man who spent decades avoiding personal anguish with laughter, this moment was quite revealing. The way old headlights look in the mirror flashed across the walls, a quiet reminder of the world he made and loved. He didn't joke this time. He didn't use his normal smile. Jay said that his health has always been a hard fight because of his recent accidents. He didn't go into too much depth. Those people who are close to him report that his recuperation has been much difficult than people thought. Some sources say that he has lost his ability to move around, become limited, and the tension of physical therapy all the time has taken its cost. Jay said something even more revealing. He's been thinking about what actually matters: peace, family, and legacy. He said, "You can't take your garage with you," whispered softly, his eyes darting toward the autos he worked on for years to fix. The confession made fans cry, Jay said. Has always been about movement, going from the stage to the studio to the garage. But for the first time, it sounded like he might be getting ready to stop. People who work there say that his wife Mavis has been pushing him to slow down for years, especially after his adventures that almost killed him. Those times affected everything. Once Jay is now driven by job and adrenaline, seems to be focused on thankfulness and closure. This address was more than just an update. It was a graceful goodbye. And still, there's still one portion of the announcement that shocked everyone paying attention. Something he said at the conclusion made even friends who had known each other for a long time pick up the call in disbelief. The time that everyone was astonished when Jay stopped, took a deep breath and added, "I've made the choice to let go." The room went quiet. People who were watching the live stream couldn't believe what they were hearing. Jay Leno, the man who characterized a time of late television at night that outlasted its competitors who worked hard even after severe injuries were being announced, something that not many people thought could happen. He is leaving, not just from TV, but from the public eye as a whole. For decades, Jay's life was all about laughing and engines. He had recorded Jay Leno's garage throughout the day and hit comedy clubs at night, and they often come back home long after midnight. That his unending determination made him one of the men who worked the hardest in show industry. But Jay says it also kept him from enjoying the little things in life. His tone in the broadcast softened when he said, "I used to believe you had to keep going or you'd go away. Now I realize that stillness doesn't mean not being strong. It signifies peace." Those remarks really hit home. Fans flooded social media with messages of sadness and thankfulness. Jay Leno's retirement was a big deal around the world in a matter of minutes. But what really everyone was shocked by how he planned to say goodbye. Instead of a tour to say goodbye or last special, Jay said he's giving up a big part of his car collection, some worth millions of dollars, to a foundation that helps young mechanics and engineers. He stated these autos gave him a reason to live, but they should inspire the next generation, not gather dust behind doors that are locked. Friends say the choice wasn't easy. Jay's garage was his museum, his sanctuary, and his legacy all in one. Giving it up means the end of a chapter that lasts a lifetime. But to people who know it's typical Leno for him, not leaving not with drama, but with kindness. The man who used to make the whole country chuckle aspires to make a difference every night, now change in stillness. Fans still can't help but ask why now. What made Jay Leno do this? Why did they make this choice so quickly? And why did he sounded so sad when he said that time is catching up? Behind the calm, the way Jay Leno said it was his close buddies have known the truth for a while. Jay hasn't been the same since his series of near-fatal mistakes. The first was a terrible fire in his garage at the end of 2022 left him with third-degree burns all over on his face and chest. In a matter of weeks, as he started to get better, something else happened. A crash on a motorcycle that broke several bones. To the people, Jay laughed it off like he always does, saying that he merely had lousy luck with fuel and the force of gravity. But in private, people who are close to him claim the anguish never truly went away. The scars on the outside healed, yet the emotional cost stayed. One a longtime buddy said, Jay would joke about everything, but when no one was around, he felt scared behind closed doors. Those accidents told him that time doesn't stop for anyone, not even him. He started canceling shows, staying away from crowds, and spending a lot of time in his garage by himself. Mavis, his loyal wife, observed a change after more than 40 years. Jay, who used to be full of energy and trouble, had become less talkative and more contemplative. Friends say it wasn't depression. It was realization. He had constructed a kingdom of joy, yet the near-death experiences made him have to face the one thing he'd always overlooked, his own death. And when the doctors said that a serious accident might be quite bad, Jay began to think about what he wanted to be remembered. That thought led to the news that is breaking right now. People close to the comedian say Jay has been quietly taking care of his business, making sure his large collection of cars worth more than $100 million will go to scholarships, museums, and charities. It's a move that's similar to what he's done his whole life, faith in hard work and helping others. But Jay's announcement was when he added, "theirs," and his voice cracked. "Something I haven't told anyone else yet." Fans knew the narrative wasn't ended yet. The next words would change everything, showing the deepest cause for his goodbye with feeling. When Jay finally told the truth about the deeper explanation for his sudden retirement, it stopped even his critics from talking. Looking his voice straight into the camera, lowered. "I've been told that I have something that makes every day a little harder," he said. For a man who spent his life was full of problems that he made fun of, the way he spoke seriously was enough to make people's hearts drop. Jay didn't say what was wrong. People close to him have quietly confirmed that his doctors told him to stop doing all physically strenuous tasks, such long time spent on stage and in his craft. Reports say that the burns and fractures had consequences that lasted a long time, and Jay's nervous system was hurt, problems that make it hard for him to move and stamina. Fans have been started to see little indicators. His his occasional lack of balance while walking, his absence from auto exhibitions he liked. But everything makes clear now. During his Jay said on the air that it was one of the hardest things about getting older is not being famous anymore. It's knowing that the body that helped you succeed for decades can abruptly let you down. He added quietly, "Comedy kept me young. But sorrow has a way of making you remember that laughing doesn't halt time." Still, even in his confession, Jay refused to sound like they had lost. He smiled through the moment, saying he wasn't not scared, just thankful. "I got to live my dream. A lot of individuals don't understand that chance. I have to do that for more than 40 years. He also said that he's not going away totally, but concentrate on helping young comedians and mechanics, helping them construct their futures exactly like he created his. As fans' expressions of support that were shared, one thing became evident. Jay Leno wasn't trying to get attention or pity, an announcement for sympathy or attention. He was bidding farewell on his own terms with being honest, funny, and humble. But before Jay hinted at something before signing off. "Not expected. I have one last thing to do. Completion before I leave for good." That this one statement has had people talking and thrill. What might this last? What could this project be? And why is Jay keeping it a secret? What is the secret? As fans rushed to find out what Jay Leno meant when he said his last project, the answer slowly started to take shape, form. People close to him told that Jay has been filming not about a profoundly intimate documentary. Not about humor or vehicles, but about life after the show. For months, he's been letting cameras inside his house and garage, taking pictures of unedited moments of thinking, fixing things, and deep conversations with the folks who helped him along the way. It's a part of the public has never seen Jay. Gone are the lights in the studio and the punchlines. It's just Jay, his tools, and the truth. There are rumors that the documentary is the last ride is said to follow him while he fixes one last car, the first one he ever bought prior fame. "It's not about power anymore," Jay said at his broadcast. "It's about closure." Friends claim that this project has become his therapy, a way to bring together the two things he has loved his whole life, machinery and stories. Every episode will tell the story of a part of his past. From his hard times as a young comedian sleeping in his car during the good old days when he was on The Tonight Show, a well-known name. There are even feelings talking to Mavis, who speaks honestly about their marriage and the toll that Jay's nonstop work put on them both. One producer said that Jay's the goal isn't fame, it's thankfulness. He wants to leave something behind that feels like a person. The producer claimed he isn't not scared of endings anymore. The documentary also has parts from his rehabilitation from the burn, which was exceedingly hard process that he didn't tell followers about. It's authentic, raw, and heartfelt. Something very taken away from the pristine picture he kept for decades. And even though Jay has said that this will be his last one on-screen appearance, those who have viewed early footage say it's some of the best work he's ever done. It's the story of a man learning how to halt, one crew said a member. And somehow it still makes you laugh. But even with the movie Jay's last words, which were hard to understand, you'll get it all when there is one hint that says see the ending. The last twist that the world isn't ready for. In the weeks after Jay Leno's emotional whispers concerning his last broadcast, the project got noisier. Reporters started gathered outside his famous Burbank garage, hoping to see the man who once seemed like they couldn't be beaten. But Jay wasn't hiding. He was working in silence. And with a clear goal in mind on what would become his legacy. It began with a letter written by hand, very personal, and meant to be released just after his next documentary. That letter somehow made its way into the public eye, and what it had in it sent waves all throughout Hollywood. For a long time, Jay wrote, "I thought my job was to make folks laugh when things weren't humorous. But what I've learned is that laughing is only part of the story. The other half is love. The folks who are on stage with you, with the people who believe in you, and the woman who is next to you when the lights go off." Those words right away spread like wildfire. They weren't written down. They were honest, true, and raw. And for a guy who has spent decades hiding his hidden behind punchlines, this was the first time Jay let people see the person behind the smile. The letter shown how he spent a lot of time recovering from the motorcycle and the fire. Jay started writing in a notebook after the crash, not for fame or publication, but to keep his sanity. He wrote about it on page after page. life, regret, and the delicate balance between wanting to do well and being happy. He wrote about how lonely prosperity may be and the feeling guilty for realizing that he made millions of people laugh, yet occasionally he forgot about himself. I missed birthdays, he said, dinners and quiet mornings. Said, I convinced myself it was for the fans. It could have been, but at some point along the way, I stopped being there for my own life. That line alone hit or resonated with readers of all ages. People that know Jay well corroborated that people are now turning those journals into his most personal memoir yet, which will be coming out with the next provisionally titled The Last Documentary, Go for a Ride. The memoir isn't just a look behind the scenes during late-night TV. It's a spiritual mirror. From a man who used to be in charge of the stage in the Us and is now learning how to let go with grace. Jay's longtime Mavis, his wife, also writes parts of the book. To the book, showing times that only she could tell. The fear of seeing him suffer, the quiet strength that kept their marriage strong, and the jokes that never left their house, despite when things were at their worst. In the meanwhile, the documentary is still coming together in the same garage that almost killed Jay's life. In one of the most moving, he goes back to the same place in the scene, where the fire began, being surrounded by the burned-up parts of the car that blew up. Jay didn't become angry. He just smiles and replies, you can't love something without putting it at risk. That is true for cars and for life. People who have seen early footage and say it looks like spooky but surprisingly calm. The camera catches a man who no longer afraid of endings. He cleans the same car that hurt him, like forgiving the past itself. But the movie isn't only about hurting. It's also a way to honor him. Beginnings. Jay in another sequence goes to the comedy clubs where he got his start, begin by talking to young artists who bring up memories of the 1970s for him, hungry, anxious, and full of hopes. He gives guidance that is easy to understand but deep. Don't go after celebrity. Go after happiness. Fame is a side effect. Joys are the fuel. That sentence has already become the unofficial saying for the movie's advertising campaign. People who work on the movie and have seen the near-final edit claim that the last 10 minutes are pure poetry. Jay finishes fixing up the first car that he ever owned, a 1934 Ford, and drives it, going for one more ride down a quiet road in the California desert. The hour of gold, the light bounces off the hood. The sky becomes red, and for once, Jay doesn't talk. Instead, you might hear his voice in a faint voice whispering, every road ends someplace, but if you've liked that's enough of the ride. The engine roars, the horizon eats the automobile, and the screen goes black. No clapping, no goodbye message, just peace. When the confirmation of the letter's validity, fans started to fill up his social media pages with heartfelt tributes. Some said thank you him for years of laughter. Other people talked about how he was able to stay strong through tragedy moved them. A few even said they were crying a lot, their faces were merely reading what he said. The man who used to be the face of late nighttime comedy had become a sign of strength, thankfulness, and humility. But Jay's mysterious comment still sticks with me. In the minds of everyone. You will get it. You will understand everything when you see the finale. What does he mean? Is it only a figure of speech for closure, or something else that is more final? With the world is now waiting for his last ride, Jay Leno's story has changed from one of fame and wealth into something much bigger. A meditation on legacy, death, and what it really means to live. As people get more and more excited for Jay Leno's last documentary and book of memories, the Globe seems to be holding its breath. When the date of the first show finally came, when it was announced, it sold out in minutes. Fans, other comedians, and even the little Los Angeles theater that Jay picked up was where the night rivals met. Jay picked the Los Angeles theater personally. Not a fancy Hollywood theater, but an ancient movie theater where he used to go watch old movies as a striving funny. The event seemed more like a reunion than a red carpet. The lights went out and the room was quiet. Audience when Jay came on screen, sitting in his garage one last time. The first words he said set the tone for anything that came after. If you're watching this, that means I'm done. What I began. The movie didn't start with not laughing, but silence. After that, the sound of tools banging together and engines humming and memories coming back. Jay told stories about his life, not as a famous person, but as a man striving to understand his journey. He said that the nights he played for 5 people in smoky clubs, the years he spent there without a break, and the worry that he would never be able to live up to Carson's legend. "I didn't want to take his place," Jay stated quietly. "I just wanted to show that I fit in." The video switched between his golden years on The Tonight Show and the quiet years on The Tonight Show and the loneliness of his current life. It was sad sometimes, but never sad. He laughed at old mistakes, complimented his rivals, and even made fun of the controversies that used to define his work. Then, in the middle of the movie, come as a shock to everyone, Jay pulled out a dusty, unused reel of old footage that was shot decades ago and shows a younger version of himself standing next to Johnny Carson following one of their last private meetings. In that video, Carson said, "When the jokes cease, just be yourself when you work. That's what they'll remember." That line made them cry from the crowd. For the first time, Jay let the world see the relationship between students that has always been covered in mystery. The following part showed Jay going back to the hospital that fixed his burns. Instead of paying attention to, he talked to asking the physicians and nurses who saved him about their lives, what they love to do, and what keeps people going after seeing sadness. The moment was wonderfully caught who Jay Leno truly is, a person who redirects every conversation away from himself and back to other people. Jay was in the last few minutes of the last ride, observed polishing the same car he had worked on since he started to get better. The camera gently turned around as he tightened one last time bolt, cleaned the chrome, and took a step back to look at it. "This automobile has been through fire and rebuilds," he stated, in a quiet way. "Me too. I guess we both still run." Then, without saying anything further, he began the car started and drove out of the garage. The sound of the automobile resonated through the theatrical, blending with a mournful symphonic music. People watched as Jay led the automobile down an empty desert highway with a golden sky over it. The camera panned up and his voice came back one last time. "I've told all the jokes I know. I just want to listen now." The screen faded to black and then went to the conclusion. There was only one line of credits for everyone who has ever laughed when they had to cry. The theater burst into cheers, and many others cried, comprehending that this was more than just a goodbye. It was the end. In the days that followed after the premiere, tributes came in from all around the entertainment industry, from all throughout the entertainment business. Jimmy Fallon took over for Jay on The Tonight Show, named him the blueprint of commitment. David Letterman, who used to be a formidable adversary, released a rare public "Jay and I fought for," says the statement. Years over who got the chair. It turns out he was merely holding it for the next person. Generation. Jerry Seinfeld and other comedians like Ellen DeGeneres said how much Jay's modesty had an impact on their own careers. Fans on the internet started calling the movie as the goodbye that America didn't know it needed. Jay hasn't done anything yet. Another time in public since then night. His friends think he spends most of his days at home with Mavis, sometimes going to his garage, but mostly having fun driving quietly along the coast of California. But his legacy keeps getting bigger, not through ratings or jokes, but by setting an example that laughter, strength, and elegance can last longer than fame. What started as breaking news has changed into something much more deep. Jay Leno's last act wasn't regarding engines or clapping. It was about knowing when to take your hands off the wheel and let it coast. And he didn't just end a career by doing that. He finished a voyage that makes us think every route, no matter how long, leads